elimination. So Gaussian elimination is another way to solve a system. Yes, you guys can do elimination to get an answer here, but Gaussian elimination is another way to do it, and it has its own uses. It might not seem useful to you now, but yes, Gaussian elimination has its own uses later on. So the idea is, if you have a matrix that looks like this, if you can turn it, if you have this, and you can turn it to something that looks like this, where the first value is a 1, the middle one here is a 1, the last one is a 1, you can get the answer because this is equal to x, y, z. So if you can get it in this form, you're going to be able to find what z is, and then from z you can find y, and then from y you can find x. So it goes like this. Say you have a normal system here. We can rewrite this as 6, 2, 3, 4. And I like to do the dotted lines. The book actually does solid line. It's up to you, however you want to do it. So it looks like this. So that is your start. You're going to want a little space. So the way we do this, so we are calling this row 1. This is row 2. I'm going to do some things too. Okay. And again, my goal is I want this to come out looking 1. I'm going to put A for some letter, 0, 1, and is going to equal, I'm going to call this X, I'm going to call this Y for some number. Right? That's the goal. So if I want to make this into a 1, if I want this to be a 1, what I can do is I can say, I'm going to multiply, or I'm going to divide, your choice. I'm going to take R1 and I'm going to divide it by 6, because 6 divided by 6 will give me that 1. So I'm going to take R1 and I'm going to divide it by 6. And I'm going to leave it on top. I'm going to replace it with the original R1. So it looks like this. So I take R1 and I divide it by 6. So my new matrix is 1, 1/3, because 2 divided by 6 is 1/3. And then -4 divided by 6 is -2/3. And then the bottom stays the same because I didn't touch anything on the bottom. Okay. So I successfully got the 1 that I wanted. There's some number here, and there's a value over here. So the top row is essentially done. If I can turn this 3 into a 0, then I'm like 90% done. So how do I turn that 3 into a 0? If I could find a way to make this number into -3, or make this number 3 and I subtract here, then I can knock out that. So that is the idea. So you can do multiply. So I can say R1. I can multiply this by 3 or -3, your choice. I'm going to multiply it by 3. And then I'm going to subtract it to R2. Again, this is R2. This is R2. This is R1. And then I'm going to keep it in R2. I'm going to replace it with R2. Okay, so I get this. So here's my new one. So my top stays the same. I haven't done anything to my top. But my bottom is going to change. Okay, so my top is 1, 1/3, -2/3. My bottom actually changed. Because 3R1 is actually 3, 1, -2. And if I subtract my R2, which is 3, 4, -17, right? Subtracting. So 3 minus 3 is 0. 1 minus 4, or if you want, you can just change the signs. It might be easier if you just change the signs. So this becomes a minus and this becomes a plus. So 1 minus 4 is -3. And 2 plus 17 is 15. Okay, so we are almost done. If I could turn this 3 into a 1, then I am done. And I can do that very easy. I can say, and this is your R2, I can say R2 divided by -3, and I'm going to leave it in R2. So if I divide the bottom one by -3, I get 0 divided by -3 is 0. -3 divided by -3 is +1. 15 divided by -3 is -5. So you're thinking, okay, what does that mean? So earlier I said that this one is x, this one is y. So what that tells us is that y is equal to -5. And x plus 1/3 y is equal to -2 over 3. And just use substitution. Right, I get that. And then do some math. This is x minus 5 over 3 is equal to -2 over 3. And then I can plus 5 over 3 to both sides. So I get x equals, that's 3 over 3, x equals 1. So here's my 2 answers. Okay, so that is another way to do it. Yes, it took longer, but it is a skill that's important to have, because when you have, let's say I have a W here and what comes before T, U, V, and I have a V over here. When you have so many different values or variables, elimination takes too long, and this is a way faster way, even though it doesn't look like it right now. And you'll see it on this one a little bit too. So this one has 3 variables, x, y, z. So I can rewrite this as 1, -1, 1, 8. 2, 3, -1, -2, 3, -2, -9, +9. So again, my goal is to get this A, or 1. I'm going to call this A, B, and X. 0, 1, I'll call this, I don't know, C and Y. And 0, 0, 1, and I'll call that Z. So my goal is to get a row of 1 like that. So I see that this one is already there. That one is good. So I'm going to use that. So this first row is actually all complete. It matches that first row. But I can use this to knock out everything else. So again, this is row 1, row 2, row 3. So there is a shortcut to doing this, but I'm going to take it one step at a time. I'm going to use the first one. I'm going to use this one to knock out this one. So I'm going to say, let's say -2 times row 1 plus row 2. And I'm going to put that in row 2. So it looks like this. So I'm not touching row 1. I mean, yes, I'm multiplying by -2, but I'm not changing the outcome of it. Also not changing the outcome of row 3. But I'm changing the outcome of row 2. So 2 times row 1, that gave me, or -2, so -2, +2, -2, -16. And I am adding it to 2, 3, -1, -2. So I get 0, 5, -3, -18. Did not think that through. 0, 5, -3, -18. Okay, so we got that 0. I'm gonna use, now I'm gonna try to knock out this one. Same concept. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna say -3 times row 1 plus row 3, and I'm gonna leave it in row 3. So it looks like this. So row 1 and 2 are still gonna stay the same. Row 3 is gonna change. So -3 row 1 is -3, +3, -3, -24. Row 3, the original row 3 is 3, -2, -9, +9. So I get 1, -12, -15. Well, you can't cross out, it's a 0. So I get, here's my 0, 1, -12, -15. Okay, so I got zeros here. Okay, I got a 1 here. I have a 1 here. Here's another trick. If I want a 1 in the middle, what I can do is I can say I'm going to take row 2 and I'm going to just change it with row 3. I'm just going to flip the order. So I'm going to take row 3, which is 0, 1, -12, -15. And I'm just going to flip the order with row 2, which is 0, 5, -3, -18. As you can see, it's important that you are organized, because it could get messy, especially if you make a simple mathematical error somewhere. Everything's going to go off. But I got that 1 in the middle like I want. So now row 2 is set. It's good to go. Okay. If I can knock out this 5, then we are almost done. So when I flip them, this is row 1, this is row 2, this is row 3 now. So I'm going to use this one to knock out that one. And I can do that by saying -5 times row 2 plus row 3. And I'm going to put that in row 3. So it's going to look like this. So row 1 and row 2 are not going to change. Row 3 is going to change. So -5 row 2 is 0, -5, 60, and -75. Row 3 is 0, positive 5, negative 3, and negative 18. This should be a positive 75. So add these two together, 0, 0, 57, and 57. So I have a 0, 0, 57, 57. And we are almost done here. I just need to get a 1 right there. I can do that if I say row 3 divided by 57 and put it back in row 3. So I get this. $57 divided by 57 is 1 and 1. So that tells me that 1, I'm reading the row 1 is 1x minus y plus z is equal to 8. Y minus 12z is equal to negative 15. And z is equal to 1. So now I know what z is equal to. I can plug in 1 to here. Z is 0 to 1. So y minus 12 times 1 is negative 15. So y is equal to negative 3. I know what those two are. I'm going to plug into here and here. So x minus negative 3 plus 1 is equal to 8. So x is equal to, that's positive 3. 4 minus 4, x is equal to 4. Okay, so again, it does take longer, but it's a great skill to have because in the future, this is another trick that you can use to figure it out. So this one's done the same for you to practice, same as that one, done the same. These are questions from the book, so you can always get references from the book.